the Twinsburg Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, March 21st, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. Mr. Aho, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Solera?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Here.
Mr. Felber?
Here.
Thank you, and if you could all please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and thank you again for attending. I'd say happy spring, and I know that we've already sprung forward with the time, and the vernal equinox was yesterday, but it appears that Mother Nature did not get the memo, as there was a bunch of snow on the ground today. So hopefully this is the last of it, the last time the superintendent will be driving around at 4:30 in the morning, and the last time that we'll have to be scraping the snow off of our cars. I'd like to start off this evening by congratulating two of our students. Ms. Tiana Elder for her tremendous accomplishment, as she is the Girls Division I OHSAA Bowling State Champion. It's a great accomplishment for Tiana, and one that I hope she remembers forever. I'd also like to thank or to congratulate Ms. Alexandra Holmes for being named the 2018 Scholastic Art and Writing Awards National Gold Medal winner. Ms. Holmes placed in the top 1% out of over 350,000 entries nationwide with her editorial cartoon, Plastic Politician, which, if you'll remember, she actually presented here at a meeting earlier this year. She'll be attending an awards ceremony at Carnegie Hall in early June, and our district could not be more proud of her work and her recognition. 2 weeks ago, this board unanimously passed a resolution voicing our opposition to HB 512, and since then, more than 30 other districts have done the same, with many others placing similar resolutions on their agendas for their next scheduled meetings. This board and administration have continued to press our state officials and push for them to stop this bill from proceeding. And again, I will ask for your assistance in this. Stripping power away from elected officials and handing those powers over and authority over to a political appointee who is not held accountable to the public does nothing to improve the education in Ohio and only harms our most important resource, our children. Despite our calls, emails, resolutions, this bill continues to move forward. We need our community to stand up and make your voices heard, that you will not continue to let our legislators strip away our local control. I urge each and every one of you in this room to contact our representatives in Columbus and voice your disdain and concern with this bill. I'd like to thank Superintendent Powers and her team for putting together the community forum to discuss school safety last week. I'd also like to thank Twinsburg Police Chief Noga, Assistant Chief Gonsowski, Twinsburg Fire Chief Tim Morgan, Reminderville Police Chief Buck, School Resource Officer Ron Frischella, and Deputy Sheriff Dobbins for their parts in the presentation, as well as all of the cooperative work they do with our district in planning and implementing our safety protocols and plans. I'd also like to thank all of the concerned community members and parents who attended and submitted the numerous questions and concerns that I hope were addressed and answered. For those in the community who were unable to attend, Cable 9 will be airing their taping of the event starting in April on Tuesdays at 8 p.m., Fridays at 10:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Please tune in if possible so that you can see the extent that the district has improved and adapted its safety and security protocols as we continue to make safety and security of our students a top priority. In keeping with this, we will tonight vote on a resolution employing our federal and state elected officials to work together to not only enact legislation, but to properly fund any measures and prioritize the safety and security of our schools. The violence that has far too often occurred in schools, as recently as yesterday at a high school in Maryland, needs to be addressed and actions taken to prevent it. There is no easy solution, as it is a complex issue with many layers that need to be addressed. As a district, we have made vast improvements to our physical buildings and buses, our personnel, our action plans, but it's time for those at levels higher than us to stop the partisan politics and focus on the safety of the children. It is my hope that this board joins other boards across the state and country and passes this resolution this evening. I would again ask that you join us in our efforts and contact our elected officials, urging them to put forth a serious effort in collaborating to help end this violence. Without further delay, as I've heard that my meetings run a little long, I will now turn the meeting over to Superintendent Powers for her report and the recognition of all these students here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Solero. Good evening, Board of Education. And it's so great to see all of our families out. If you walk outside today, right now, you think, what happened to the snow this morning, right? It's a beautiful spring, early spring evening, and we enjoy seeing all of our families gathered tonight to celebrate some outstanding Tigers. Before we get to all of that, there are a couple of announcements. Mr. Solero, you just mentioned House Bill 512. On a conference call with folks in Columbus this afternoon, I heard that House Bill 512 has not been voted out of the House yet, and so there is still plenty of opportunity for us to contact our House of Representative person, that would be Christina Rogner, and to please voice your concern about House Bill 512 and to offer your opinion to her. Also, Board of Education, the other interesting piece of legislation that is just now getting through the very complicated manner that bills get through the General Assembly is there is going to be a redesign bill regarding the local report card. And parents, you know that when we get the report card in the fall, sometimes the information on the local report card is very confusing. And finally, the legislators are taking a look at that local report card, and hopefully there will be some relief soon. So we're going to pay close attention to that legislation, that bill, that is soon to be a point of conversation down in Columbus, and we look forward to some redesign on that local report card so that when we're taking a look at the progress that is being made by our students here in our district as well as other school districts, it makes sense to us. It's not confusing, and it's easily understood. So we look forward to that as well. Board of Education kindergarten registration for the 2018-19 school year is underway. Can't believe it. Parents of children who will be 5 years of age before August 1st of this year are asked to visit the district website at www.twinsburg.k12.oh.us and then click on the For Parents tab found at the top, and then you scroll down to access our registration information. Once there, you'll be asked to create an account, and then you'll be asked to complete the pre-registration information. Once you are complete, you will be able to schedule a kindergarten registration appointment online. Kindergarten registration will be held at the Twinsburg Community Center on May 9th, 10th, and 11th. And there needs to be just some recognition, Board of Education. On our district calendar, it says May 8th, 9th, and 10th. But because May 8th is an election day, the folks at Twinsburg City allowed us to adjust the calendar back a day. So it is May 9th, 10th, and 11th. And again, you need to complete the pre-registration information online and schedule your appointment online before that registration day. As always, feel free to contact Ms. Villa or Mr. Asti at Wilcox Primary School, and we sure do look forward to meeting the class of 2031, which will soon be here at Wilcox Primary School. Mr. Solero, you mentioned this evening Ty, and you mentioned Alex. Just 2 days ago, I taped our Cable 9 show for the month of April, and we actually featured Cheyenne Elder and Coach Anthony Bird, who's here this evening. Also, we featured Alex Holmes and her art educator, Sharon Masenko, as well as Lucas Fisher, who you met here a couple months back, and he is our Expressions winner 2 years in a row. And so it was a delight to interview these 3 outstanding Twinsburg High School graduating seniors. They're all seniors. And so I invite you to tune in to Cable 9 to see the April show. You'll be very impressed with these 3 outstanding students. Makes me very proud. Mr. Solero, thank you for mentioning our community conversation about school safety. And again, we certainly do appreciate the wonderful partnership that we have between our school district and our local law enforcement, as well as the county at the Summit County Sheriff's Office. As a school district, we continue to engage our staff and parents to identify ways to enhance our school security procedures. Just this week, teachers and administrators participated in a Labor Management Relations Committee meeting where the topic was school safety. Further, the district has initiated its strategic planning process with the first of several focus groups held just last week. One of the committees which will reconvene following the focus group effort will be a school safety committee. Parents and residents, if you are interested in participating in this committee work, please contact me at the Board of Education office so that I can keep you posted as far as upcoming meetings regarding school safety. And finally, it's important for the school district to advocate to our state and national leaders for enhanced school safety measures. Therefore, as Mr. Solera mentioned, there is a resolution that was placed on tonight's Board of Education agenda which formally requests our state and national leaders to enact legislation with funding for the following causes. First of all, enhanced mental health services and substance abuse treatment so that all individuals, including children, have sufficient access to these services. Secondly, increased access to school safety measures, including but not limited to school resource officers, also called SROs, school safety infrastructure, and either security measures designed to protect students and staff from an active shooter on school grounds. Thirdly, training for school employees and enhanced coordination with law enforcement agencies and first responders to ensure appropriate responses to incidents of violences in schools. And finally, preserving the balance between the right to own firearms and the protection of students and school employees from any act of violence. Board of Education, I respectfully request that you approve the resolution this evening, which supports the efforts to enhance school safety measures, and that you join me in advocacy efforts and communicate to our state and national leaders your resolve to work with our stakeholders to ensure student safety in the Twinsburg City School District. And I sincerely appreciate your consideration of that resolution. So, and now it's time to celebrate our Tigers. I know that Ms. Villa and Mr. Asti can hardly wait to come forward, and we have many Wilcox Tigers here to be recognized this evening. Welcome, Ms. Villa.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Powers. We have 6 Wilcox Tigers to recognize tonight, 3 kindergartners and 3 first graders. So, boys and girls, Mr. Asti is going to call you up one by one and read some information about you that your teacher shared. And then, teachers, we have a little surprise for you, too. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Asti.
Good evening, Board of Education, Ms. Powers, and the Twinsburg community. Brings me great pleasure to introduce some fabulous students and their teachers this evening. So when I call your name, students, if you could come on up and receive some recognition, and I'll also introduce your teacher, and if they're here, they could come on up as well. So first up, we have Matthew Derylak in Miss Browning's class. She says, Matthew is a super role model for his peanut gang peers. He works very hard and gives his best every day. He volunteers often in class and is wise beyond his years when responding to questions. He has come so far from the beginning of the year and should be proud of his accomplishments. And we always interview the students as well to see what they say about their teacher. And he says that Miss Browning is so nice because of her students when they get the problem wrong, she helps them get it right and tells them to try again next time. Miss Browning has helped Matthew with reading by telling him the words so he remembers it. One time, Matthew was sad he didn't get all his work done before recess, so Miss Browning gave him some extra time after. Miss Browning rocks. Our next student is Jacob Kimball in Mrs. Scalero's class. Come on up, Jacob. She says that Jacob comes to school each day and does his best work. He is respectful to adults and his friends and is always kind and helpful. He works hard and never gives up. Mrs. Scalero is so happy, and she feels that she is a lucky teacher to have him in class. And he says that Mrs. Scalero rocks because she is funny. One time, when the class was working on bonus letters, she made both LL sounds when she was not supposed to. She is also very helpful when Jacob is reading because she helps him sound out the really hard words like wood. Jacob will miss Mrs. Scalero next year. Our next first grader is Michael Dixon in Mr. Scalero's class. Come on up, Michael. Mr. Scalero nominated Michael for many reasons. He said he is a very hard worker, he always wants to do his best, and he has already improved his reading level from H to a level M this year with a whole quarter to go, which is really something. Michael is a quiet leader in our class, and he is always laid back and has a good sense of humor. Mr. Scalera's favorite thing about Michael is that he is an out-of-the-box thinker who is not afraid to ask questions about the many topics he is studying. Mr. Scalera says to keep up the good work, and you're one of the reasons why Wilcox rocks. And Michael says that Mr. Scalera rocks because he is a funny teacher who lets his students make leprechaun traps and do other fun-themed activities around the holidays. One time, Michael was stuck on a math problem, 20 minus 14, and Mr. Scalera reminded him to use his number line, and he got it. Mr. Scalera is really smart, too, he says. Every time Michael gives him a hard problem to solve, Mr. Scalera always figures it out. Our next group of students are kindergartners. First up, Trinity Dean in Mrs. Lowe's class. Mrs. Lowe says, Trinity is a wonderful student who always puts forth her best effort. She has made tremendous progress this year in reading and math and is kind and helpful to her friends. She follows all the classroom rules and loves to tell reasons why it is important to follow each of these rules. She always comes to school with that smile on her face, and Mrs. Lowe is glad to have Trinity in her class this year. And she says that Mrs. Lowe is such a nice teacher. She teaches her students about letter sounds so they can read. She also helps students with their behavior. Mrs. Lowe helps Trinity be a better reader by having her tap out the words like bite and reminds her about the magic E. Trinity will miss Mrs. Lowe next year, and Mrs. Lowe rocks. Next up is Mark Daly in Mrs. Petrish's class. Come on up, Mark. She said, Wilcox rocks because of students like Mark. Not only is Mark a wonderful student, he is also an amazing friend and classmate. Mark's kind heart reaches out to those in need, and he tries his best to include his classmates. He especially tries his best to communicate and play with friends who are nonverbal. Mrs. Petrish is so proud to have Mark in her class. And he says that Mrs. Petrish has her class do fun activities like making circle art that was inspired by some mathematician, he said, which I had to Google, and it was Fibonacci, actually. Fibonacci arcs and circles, which I thought was really cool they were doing. She also teaches her class really neat shapes, like the triangle. Mrs. Petrish always helps Mark get new books for his book bin that are just the right level and interest him. Mrs. Petrish makes Wilcox rock. And our final student is Landon Hardman in Mrs. Tershek's class. She says, Landon is a wonderful student. Mrs. Tershek loves how eager he is to learn and practice new things. Landon is one who continues to practice until he's mastered the skill. The grin on his face tells it all. He is super proud of his accomplishments. Landon is a kind and caring boy, and he thinks about others and is always willing to lend a helping hand. And he says that Mrs. Tershek is a great teacher. She teaches her students fun math, especially subtraction. One time in class, she helped Landon solve his addition problem by helping him set the cubes to get the right answer. Mrs. Tershek is always so nice and gives her students stickers when they do well. Mrs. Tershek rocks. So boys and girls, if I could have you hold up your certificates right in front of you, just like this, in front of your tummy, teachers too, and smile out to the audience all together, giving a nice big smile to mom and dad so they could get a good picture of you. Excellent. One more round of applause for our Wilcox Rock students and teachers. All right, boys and girls and teachers, you guys could have a seat. I know we're going to recognize some other great students, so just sit tight as we turn it over to Dodge Intermediate.
So good evening, everyone. Wilcox is always a hard act to follow. but we're really excited to acknowledge our students of the month. As I look around and see some many mismatched socks for World Down Syndrome Awareness Day, Dodge participated in that, and I even have my orange socks on, so hopefully you all have yours on as well. So we had some exciting things going on at Dodge coming up over the next couple of weeks after spring break, of course, a well-deserved spring break for your little ones. But as we come back, we're going to be looking at our spring fling, and that's the opportunity for our artistic students to really shine. And we've got some really great artists and some kids who have some really great talent. So if you have an opportunity to join us for our spring fling, I welcome you out to Dodge for that. The same evening, we have our Learn About Dodge program, which is the opportunity for our third grade families to come out and learn all the great things that Dodge has to offer. Come a little early if you're coming as a third grade parent, because you will have the opportunity to share in some of the spring fling activities and get a tour from our student council and get an opportunity to see all the great things that are happening at Dodge. And then lastly, before we turn it over to our student leader or one of our student council members here, is that I just wanted to take a second to share with you all that you'll be getting some information from Dodge, as we will be sending 6 teams to a state competition level for our Invention League, which is a really great honor. It's a statewide competition, and from there, those students will have the opportunity to go to a national competition, so we're really excited about what that's going to look like. 6 teams from one school building is phenomenal, so we're really excited about that. So as we get ready to move on, we're going to highlight our leadership from our student council, and I will hand this over to Ms. Wong.
Well, good evening, everyone. Like Mr. Holland said, one of the great things that we have going at Dodge is we have a lot of student leadership opportunities. And tonight we are fortunate to have one of our student council members here who are going to help us introduce some students of the month. I believe that we have one student missing, so we're going to help him out tonight. Would you like to start us off?
Good evening. My name is Dirsh Patel. Character counts at George G. Dodge Intermediate School. The following students were selected by their teachers at Dodge because they have represented and exemplified the qualities of outstanding leadership, citizenship, academic performance and efforts, social skills, and overall accomplishments. The character word for 4th grade students for the quarter is respect. Respect means that we follow the golden rule, are tolerant of differences, use good manners and not poor language, are considerate of the feelings of others, do not threaten, hit, or hurt anyone, and deal peacefully with anger, insults, and disagreements. The 4th grade students of the month from Mrs. Brindley, Mrs. Fetcher, Mrs. Summers, Mrs. Vilchek, and Mrs. Williams are Avery Dines, Annabelle Hayek, Camden Hill, and Lay Rise.
These are our 4th grade. So you need another one?
The character word for 5th grade students for the quarter is caring. Caring means that one kind, compassionate, and protective. It means that one expresses gratitude, forgives others, and helps people in need. Caring students are also charitable and selfless. The 5th grade students of the month from 5th grade is Mrs. Booker and Mrs. Parks. Mr. Parks classes are Grace Jacobus. Fabian Mahayo.
We have one more fourth grader to honor, and that student is from Mrs. Brindley, Mrs. Fichter, Mr. Summers, Mrs. Vilchek, and Mrs. Williams classes, and that's Bailey Hussein. So Bailey, can you come on up?
Character word for sixth grade students for this quarter is citizenship. Being a good citizen means you do your share to make your school and community better. You cooperate, you get involved in community affairs. You stay informed. Vote, you are a good neighbor, you obey laws and rules. You respect authority, you protect the environment and volunteer in your school community and community at large. The sixth grade students of the month from Mrs. Kotzman, Mrs. Smock, and Mrs. Widener classes are Zariah Brantley, Michaela Hardwick, and Matthew Schwartz. I would like to provide you with an update on many projects and initiatives that we are working on at George G. Dodge Intermediate School. Student Council hosted a sixth grade dance. Many students were able to hang out with their friends, dance, play table tennis, have checker tournaments, and enjoy snacks. Thanks to Mrs. Linden for all her hard work organizing such a great event. The sixth grade classes also celebrated Pi Day on March 14th. Students solved math problems and enjoyed apple pie in this long day event. Thanks to Mr. Pulaski for organizing and for helping the students learn such a valuable skill. March is also Women's History Month at George G. Dodge Intermediate School. We have been learning about many great women, both past and present, who have made the world a better place. It's been an exciting and fun month.
Really like to have a special round of applause for this young man who took over many of the roles for people who could not be here tonight. And he did that right on the fly, so it was an excellent job.
So parents, this is an opportunity to take a few pictures. So boys and girls, if you want to hold up your certificates, hold them nice and high. Be proud of them, but don't cover those smiles. So as we finish out, we just want to say from all of us at Dodge, to all of you, have a safe and enjoyable, restful spring break. Thank you, boys and girls. This time we are also going to invite Twinsburg High School up to acknowledge some additional students.
Hi there. We almost missed our cue. We're from the high school. My name is Louise Taringo, and I'm the principal. And Mr. Popovich is coming in, assistant principal. And then to my right is Mr. Fantone, our athletic director. And tonight we're here to present some certificates and to tell our audience a little bit about two great things that happened in February and early March. Basically to showcase our high school and to just highlight what great students we have. And I'd like Mr. Fantone to start, talk a little bit about our athletic accomplishments.
So we had an absolutely outstanding winter sports season at Twinsburg High School this year, and we were fortunate enough to have 4 of our athletes qualify for the state championship meet or tournament in their specific sport. And we brought them here tonight along with their coaches to honor them. First, I'd like to introduce our coaches from our swimming and diving program who are here tonight, if they could come on up. Our head coach, Coach Curtis, what the kids call him, Coach Curtis. One of our assistant coaches, Coach Melissa Walters. And our other assistant swimming coach, Maria Idem. Our first student athlete that we'd like to honor tonight is Colin Martin. Colin placed 13th in the state of Ohio in Division I in the 100-meter butterfly at the state meet. His 13th place finish at the state meet is the furthest that any swimmer has gone in the state meet in Twinsburg in our swimming and diving program's history. This year, he earned 5 team records, and he was a part of 8 total team records as part of relay teams and other events, which is over half the possible team records that we have at Twinsburg High School. Colin is now a part of all of those records here at the high school. He's been to the district swim meet 3 times. He earned 3 top 10 finishes in that district meet over his career. 9 times did he finish in the top 5 at Suburban League swim meets, and he is a 3-time team MVP. Colin Martin. From our diving program, Brad Yates. Brad is the first male diver in 16 years to qualify for the state meet at Twinsburg High School. He finished 21st in the state of Ohio in Division I. He earned all conference honors this year as in the Suburban League. He's a 2-time district qualifier, and his 7th place finish at districts is what qualified him to reach the swim meet or the state diving meet this year. He has 2 top 5 finishes in the Suburban League meets over the course of his diving career, and he is a 2-time team MVP of the diving program. Congratulations, Brad Yates. We also were fortunate enough to have 2 of our bowlers reach the state tournament in Columbus a couple weekends ago. Before I bring them up, I'd like to bring our head bowling coach up, Mr. Anthony Bird. Coach Bird does not like this recognition. He's very, he wanted nothing to do with all this recognition the past couple weeks. The first bowler we'd like to recognize tonight is junior Caleb East. Caleb is a two-time state qualifier with a long list of accomplishments in his bowling career. In 2017, Caleb was the individual champion of the Panther Challenge Tournament as well as the Suburban League Bowler of the Year. In 2018, Caleb was champion of the Eagle Challenge Tournament, was a first-team All-Suburban League Award recipient, was the sectional tournament champion with a 748 series, and took second place at the district tournament with a 623 series. During his high school career, Caleb has a high series of 821. For those of you who've ever bowled before, you know that's an insane number. He has an overall average of 226.82, and in his time, he has bowled 3 perfect 300 games. Wow. He finished in, let's clap for that, that's a great accomplishment. At the state tournament on Friday, March 9th, Caleb took 16th place in Division I in the state of Ohio, bowling a 634 series. And I told the story last night at the Winter Sports Banquet, but I'll say it again. It was really neat to be down in Columbus to watch the dynamic between his parents, because his dad was right there in the front. Every time he threw a ball, you could just see his dad was, on pins and needles and cheering for him and loud and everything. And meanwhile, his mom was sitting back in the corner with his little sister. She wanted nothing to do with even watching because she was so nervous. So congratulations to our state qualifier, 16th in the state of Ohio in Division I, Caleb East. The next bowler we'd like to honor tonight, Tiana Elder. Tiana is a 3-time state qualifier at THS and also has a long list of accomplishments during her time as a member of the bowling program. In 2016, Tiana won the district championship. In 2017, Tiana was named first team All-Suburban League and was again the champion of the district tournament. In 2018, Tiana was named Suburban League Bowler of the Year, finished in third place at the sectional tournament with a 588 series, finished in third place at the district tournament with a 571 series. During her time as a member of the THS bowling team, she has a 213.8 average. And most significantly this year, Tiana went down to Columbus on Saturday, March 10th, and won the state championship in Division I for girls bowling this year, with setting a state record of 729 for her series bowling. So state champion in Division I, Tiana Elder. This is what's going on in our program. Takes to high school. Congratulations, state champion Tiana Elder.
Woo! All right. Okay, let's keep going with our tradition. All right. Alan, who'd you bring here tonight to celebrate with you?
I brought my mother and my sister.
There they are. Thank you.
Got my mom and my dad.
Very good.
My mom and my dad.
Mom's taking pictures proudly, and Tiana, our state champ. My mom. There she is. I won't ask the coaches who they brought here tonight. And to our younger students here, remember the parade we came through last Monday, and to all the buildings, and the students were just so happy that Ty came through, and she was high-fiving everyone, so it was great. So that's our gold medalist. There she is, Ty Elder, state champ. Congratulations. You can have a seat. Okay. Thank you. One, two. Okay. And Mr. Popovich up here now. Our next quick little program, I'd like to showcase this evening. If we could have Ms. Foskett come on up. Shannon Foskett. Mrs. Foskett's here tonight as the advisor of our academic challenge team. And some of you may have watched on February 10th as our academic challenge team was up against 2 local teams. And Ms. Foskett, let me, real quick, she gave me a nice little recap. So I asked Ms. Foskett to give me some details about how do you make it onto Academic Challenge and what did our students do? So if I could, something a little different, if I can have our Academic Challenge team that was on WEWS, if they can come on up, Ian, Dominic, Nithya, and our alternate too, Lucas is here too. So come on up, Luke. Okay. Okay. Do you want to stand where you would like your positions on stage? So I don't hit you here. Okay. There you go. See? That was that. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. That's our Academic Challenge team. All right. So how do you make it onto Academic Challenge? Okay. So basically throughout the year, the students participate in about 20 matches. And what Mrs. Foskett does is she keeps track of how the students do. So our qualifiers, the top qualifiers, make it onto the actual program. So Mrs. Foskett, these what we would consider the best of our Academic Challenge team, correct?
Our varsity team.
Okay, our varsity team. Now, if anyone can really join and participate in Academic Challenge, they meet on Tuesdays. It's a very nice club. It's fun. But of course, trivia buffs, actual knowledge, you really have to know what's going on, okay? So let's see if they really know what's going on. All right, students, we're going to do a little, look at that. All right. Let's do something like history or social studies. How about that? All right, history or social studies. Question number 1. This act was passed in 1807 after both England and France violated American neutrality. For 10 points, name this act that stopped the U.S. from participating in overseas trade. Of? Perfect. Thank you. Dominic, 10 points. Wow. He is our history buff, too. So. All right, science question. Now, don't all let Dominic jump in, you know. All right, these organisms may be classified as gram-positive or gram-negative, which roughly corresponds to the thickness of their cell walls. For 10 points, name these microorganisms that include E. coli and Salmonella. Thank you. Ooh, bacteria. So you get it? This is I've never been on the show, but you guys are perfect. So, but why we wanted to recognize them, if anyone's been keeping track of the top 10 schools in Northeast Ohio, we are still up there as our score was, Ms. Foskett, what was our highest score? 535 is still one of the top scores. However, the top 3 schools in Northeast Ohio get to come back for the finals. But our school is definitely in the top 10, and we wanted to congratulate our team. Luke, thank you so much. Dominic, Ian, and Nithya. And I see that plaque, so the winner of the show gets a nice plaque. Can we showcase that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will keep this at school in our locked glass cabinet. So we were the winners this year of Academic Challenge. And I'd like to congratulate Ms. Foskett for taking them to this level. Thank you so much. Yes, sure. I'd like to introduce Ms. Foskett.
I just wanted to say what a pleasure it is to work with these guys every Tuesday. We have a really great time. And I want to say a special thank you to Ian and Nithya because our time is over with Academic Challenge, and I will miss you guys and all your great knowledge. But I saw those little guys, and I can't wait to get them on the team. So,
Thank you, Ms. Foskett. We have some certificates for you. Luke, we'll start with you, Lucas. Who'd you bring here tonight?
My beautiful family.
Okay, where are they? Because everyone here is beautiful, you know. Oh, there they are, back there. Congratulations. Dominic?
My mom and my dad. I also wanted to say, Colin, I'll see you in Fortnite later.
Very good. There's mom and dad there. Ian?
I brought my mother and father right over there.
Right here. There they are waving. Congratulations to mom and dad.
I brought my dad.
Congratulations. And this is our team. Thank you, students, for representing Twinsburg High School so well.
Mr. Slur, we had a lot to celebrate tonight, but that concludes our superintendent's report for this meeting.
Thank you very much, and love for everybody to stay, but now is a good time to get home and finish that homework, get ready for spring break.
If you give it, take it to the office tomorrow, then Mr. Holland or Mrs. Huggins, actually Miss Huggins said that, I would just give it to her, she'll fix it. My apologies. Thank you.
All right, moving forward on to committee reports. I know we've had a lot of committee meetings these past few weeks, so if colleagues would like to start. Mr. Felber?
I'll go ahead and start. I had a double header in Business Advisory Council and Finance on either end of a day. I'm going to start with the morning meeting with the Business Advisory Council. And because it's a little bit more of a newer committee, I just thought I'd give our viewers and those here today a little bit more what that means. And the purpose of this committee was to form an alliance between the academic, business, and government communities to work significantly to improve opportunities and make recommendations for workforce development initiatives, which will provide opportunities for success for our students. And so that particular committee has many representatives from the business community, as well as our superintendent, myself, and Mrs. DeFabio are assigned to that committee. That committee met on March 13th at 8 a.m. and after approval and approval of the minutes, welcome and such, I gave a quick update for those in the business community about House Bill 512, as well as the Blue Ribbon Schools campaign for upcoming no tax renewal levy. There was an update from the Academy at Twinsburg High School from Norm Potter, who heads that up. And many of you have heard that there is a strategic plan that is being developed for the schools, and a lot of data has to be collected. And one of the representatives from the group that we hired to do that did a little bit of a listening session with the businesses. There was an update on an actual state ordinance. The State Board of Education does require that we actually have this committee. So there was an update on that particular ordinance. And then members got to meet each other and talk about a couple different topics. But that's a very interesting committee. It's me coming from the business world. And, one leg here in the schools. It's interesting to see those two worlds come together. And then the Finance Committee met later that evening. While a shorter agenda, I believe it was a longer meeting. No slam to Mr. Slur and I that sit on that committee. But we heard about the upcoming summer projects, which is a typical item at this time of year. The permanent improvement budget and how that was going to be planned for the next couple of years, as well as some Twinsburg High School facilities projects and some other related expenditures. So those were two of the committees I sit on, but not to steal the thunder, Mr. Curtis and I sit on Buildings and Grounds, so I'll let him do that one.
Yeah. So Buildings and Grounds met on March the 19th, Monday the 19th at 8 o'clock. And the first item of business that we went over, which Chad did a really nice job of, is going over our summer projects for 2018. These are things that will be coming up. But they also did a recap of some things that have happened up until this point. So that you know that the summer projects, and everything that's going on is really an extension of the facilities assessment that we had done a couple of years ago, and also a part of our 5-year strategic facilities plan that we have. And a lot of these items are ongoing. what Mrs. Powers often refers to as warm, safe, and dry. Maintenance, general things that have to come up, and oftentimes, like we'll give roofs as an example. There's a certain lifespan of a roof, and so we regularly assess the condition of the roofs, and and they're on a replacement cycle. So that was one of the items that we went over amongst a number of things. So very, very extensive list of items that we went over, and the condition and the status of where we are with respect to those items. Also included were, costs of either things, money that we've expended, or if we were able to put it off for a year or two, that was also included in the list of items for summer projects. So that's one of the items that we went over. Another item on the agenda was air quality studies, and this is specific to Dodge Intermediate, although we have done for other buildings throughout the district. But specifically, when we have inquiries from the community, or we get emails, or we get questions or concerns about air quality or whatever, we often respond immediately. And the last time that we did an air quality study was a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago. So we actually arranged to have one that was going to be conducted pretty soon. I think that day or that evening or something like that. So
it's pretty soon, yes.
Yeah, pretty soon. So same deal. We want to make sure that for one, we want to respond to questions or concerns relative to air quality in our buildings, and as soon as we get those results back, we'll be happy to report out on that. But that's something that we went over. As well as another item on the agenda was the relocation of the Twinsburg Alternative Program. And so just to kind of give you some context to that conversation, the program was housed in the Hudick House, and has been there for a number of years. And apparently there were some health concerns as a result of just the condition of the building, that we had to remove the students and staff out of that building so that we can do further inspection and assess the condition of the building. And so that program and those students were relocated in the high school for the remainder of the year. So as we're in the process of just kind of assessing that, we wanted to look at the prospect of, if they were going to be in the high school for long term, what's the best place for them to be, and also making sure that if we had to do some retrofitting and if we had to do some modifications of the space, what costs are associated with those two spaces. And if I'm not mistaken, there were two spaces that have been identified, and I'm sorry, I'm going to screw it up in terms of where they were.
Sure. One is one of the new G labs, and the second space is what is currently the health classroom, the driver's ed room off the commons.
Okay. So we basically, Chad allowed us to kind of look at some schematics of both spaces as if they were modified. What doors would have to be put in, restrooms, office spaces, and lab space. And so both locations had pros and cons in terms of, value and, student access and seclusion and things like that. So we're able to kind of take a look at those things, and we're not at a point in time where we can make a recommendation as to where, as to what should happen. But we were able to at least, get a glimpse of those spaces. We also had some conversation, just around the future of the program and just a lot of the things that go on in the program. And, we want to make sure that whatever space is designated for the program is conducive for how we serve the students, and also conducive for the staff that are going to be there. But also looking into the future, like, based on what happens currently with the program, and looking at the title of the program, and doesn't really accurately reflect what's really going on. And so we're in the midst of just kind of having those conversations and determining, whether it warrants a rebranding of the program, whether it warrants just kind of doing some different things programmatically. And this was a good opportunity to do that. In addition to, just looking at a different physical space based on where they're located right now. Last item that we discussed in Buildings and Grounds is the Twinsburg High School parking lots, the short-term parking lots in particular. When we look at and yeah, this was evident in kind of the overhead view that we were able to look at. The parking lots have sustained a lot of wear and tear, and we're basically assessing, to what extent repairs need to be made or replacement of the parking lots, and looking at the costs associated with the parking lots. So, is there anything that I missed, Rob, in terms of that aspect, or any other things that I've covered?
No, I think you've got it.
Okay. So again, this is all part of regular maintenance and just assessing our buildings, and in any areas that we own. We want to make sure that they're safe. We want to make sure that everything is compliant, and we want to make sure that we're staying on top of any issues that might come ahead. So that's the report on Buildings and Grounds. Anybody else? Any other committees meet? Okay. The last thing, and I typically report this during committees, is the CVCC and updates on what's going on with the Cuyahoga Valley Career Center that I sit on. So I want to, let's see, I'm looking at, we had we're going to have a number of students that are going to be actually participating in a state Skills USA regional competition. Actually, they participated in the regional competition. They're going to be moving on to the state. And so there are two students in Twinsburg that we're going to be going to states, and that's student's name is James Pope. He's a junior. He's in auto body. He plays second on the regional. He'll be moving on to the state. And also Mike Sims. He's a senior, and he's enrolled in machine technology, and he also plays second in CNC turning. Rob, you had some information that you want to report out on.
Did you want me to do that?
Yeah, why don't you?
All right. There is a program at CVCC for seniors called Teaching Professions, for those that want to jump into this world. And I'm going to read a little. I asked them to write something up, so bear with me to write it. But these first four names these are all Twinsburg students: Kayla Eber, Emily Agnillo, Cameron Robinson, and Alana Felber. They've participated in the Teaching Professions class at CVCC. For about the past 4 months, they've been practicing for what's called Educators Rising competition. Educators Rising is an organization that prepares future teachers for presenting and researching creative techniques that can utilize in their classrooms. The competitions range from ethical dilemmas, creating children's literature books, public speaking, and making a video on the innovative strategy in their schools. Each student worked hard to prepare for the competition and showcase their work at Ohio Dominican University on March 15th down in Columbus at the Ohio Educators Rising State Competition. Students competed in highly competitive events, and we're proud to say that two of Twinsburg students, Kayla Eber and Emily Agnillo, received first place in pre-K literature against 34 other different books. And their book was about being kind to others and using positive words. It's a coloring book, and it's very creative. I saw it being prepared in my kitchen. In addition, let's see, Alana Felber, Kayla Eber, and Emily Agnillo competed in a competition titled Inside Our Schools, where they were interviewed, where they interviewed Mr. Triska. Mr. Triska is the school's technology integration trainer, and he comes to the classroom to teach them about new technology like lockboxes, Google Expedition, and Quiz, which they can incorporate into their future classroom. This group made callbacks and were in the top 10. And then Cameron Robinson also competed in the ethical dilemmas with two students from CVCC. This is a combined class of the 8 schools that participate in CVCC. So besides the competitions, there were breakout sessions. Students were able to learn from veteran teachers and gain valuable knowledge. All the students, according to my daughter, did amazing, and big congratulations. And I would note that with Kayla Eber and Emily Emilio, they're actually going to go down to the U.S. competition in Florida, and I believe all expenses are paid for that. And I heard it was an amazing competition. They came back exhausted, but that's our future teachers.
Awesome. Matter of fact, next time I report out, I might have Alana just come out and just do my report.
She wrote that. I said, I'm not buying, just give me something. I gave her a deadline. Thanks to the snow day at CBCC, I think I got it in.
We did have a snow day today, but yeah. So that concludes my reports for our committee.
Any other committee reports? All right. As I have a blue card in my hand, we will move towards remonstrance. Item F on the agenda, remonstrance. Persons wishing to address the Board of Education should submit a blue card found in the lobby to the treasurer prior to the meeting, so they may be recognized by the board president and welcome to make comment. No formal action will be taken on subjects that are not included on this agenda until the board has had an opportunity to study them. Comments regarding personnel must be submitted in writing through the office of the superintendent. Though there is normally adequate time for citizens to express themselves at a board meeting, if several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 5 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. Each person addressing the board is asked to give his or her name and address. So with that, I would like to ask Mr. Chuck Bonacci to come forward. And if you could, Mr. Bonacci, if you could state your address, please. Thank you.
11327 Heritage Drive in Twinsburg, Ohio. You got to forgive me, board and superintendent and awesome audience. I'm a little nervous because I've yet to address this group. The last time I was at this school board meeting, I was getting an art award, much like the one that was announced back in the 90s. And it's awesome to see that our art program and other programs are top-notch. But also in the early 90s, I participated in ski club. Then it was ski club. That was before snowboarding became legitimate. And a couple weeks ago on social media, I learned that Twinsburg doesn't offer ski club at all of the campuses. And I thought to myself, that seems kind of odd, because I have some inside information. I'm a professional ski instructor. Now, I can't pay my mortgage to teach ski lessons, but I teach ski lessons, and if you took a ski lesson from me in Ohio, it costs you a certain amount of money. Same certifications I have, if I met you in Aspen, it costs you $150 an hour. Crazy. For $200, or approximately $200, a Twinsburg school student could participate in a ski club where they could ski for 6 weeks with lift tickets, rentals, and lessons. Locally, that same opportunity for one ski trip would cost a Joe Public walk-up $150. So we're talking for $50 more, a kid could ski 6 weeks, lift tickets, rentals, and lessons, and they could actually ski on their regular day as long as the ski area is open throughout the season, which that didn't exist when I was a kid. So they've made the program a little bit better. Now, I happen to work there as an instructor, and I've been teaching there for 15 years, and we have instructors that are certified in snowboarding, nationally certified. Some of them are the actual examiners that teach other snowboarder instructors how to do it. We also have instructors that are adaptive certified. Monday nights, we have a school of awesome kids that comes out, and some of them face incredible challenges. I had a kid that didn't know how to connect his motor skills with the movements. I had him making turns in a couple hours. It's awesome. It's a great way to build a lifelong skill. I started in 5th grade after I got cut from a basketball team at a different school. It wasn't a Twinsburg school that cut me. I ponied up all my paper route money, went skiing one time, didn't take the lesson. The next day I was at the sporting goods store, ponying up even more paper route money to buy all the equipment. I was hooked from day one, lifelong skill. Now, what's the benefit for the district? Awesome opportunity for kids. What's the cost? All the kids at every single program pay their own way for their ski clubs. Some districts bring 400 kids a night. To hear 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, I had a friend, this kid was at Dodge, got squeezed out of ski club because the kid missed the announcement, forgot the piece of paper, didn't get registered. And I'm like, what the heck? I see buses from other districts bringing hundreds of kids. Some districts, the parents kind of carpool. It's pretty nifty. And I tried to get my buddy's kid into another ski club, but it just didn't work with their schedule, so he did a different way to ski. But it's lifelong opportunities. It's an awesome skill to have. It makes winter so enjoyable. You have no idea how much fun it could be, how comfortable you could be in inclement weather. And, I'm entering my time period where I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? Because it's going away. It's going away fast. This is probably my last chance. This weekend will be my last chance to go ski until next year. So hopefully this board and the administration will look into having an expanded ski club, because I know for a fact that there's capacity, because the same company offers the same pricing at 3 local ski areas, and they're not always all busy. So there's capacity. There's limited risk for the district because the ski areas has you sign a whole bunch of waivers, and there's ways to do it that doesn't really incur any expenses. And check this out. I have a feeling you could find the required, or however it works, the advisors, because the advisors get some different benefits out of the program too, because I teach some of the advisors. So they're out there, same deal, lift tickets, rentals, and lessons. You guys could even be advisors to it. You could ski for free, basically, is what I'm telling you. All you got to do is expand it to a few other schools. I think it's a great idea. Hopefully you guys could do something, guys and gals could do that, and hopefully I was under my 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonacci. All right, moving on to item G, Treasurer's Report recommendations. Without objection from my colleagues, I will read items G1 and G2. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the following meeting minutes. The regular meeting of March 7th, 2018, as sent to the board under separate cover. Item G2, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the following financial reports for the month of January 2018. Bank reconciliation, general fund financial summary report, and financial report by fund as sent to the board under separate cover. Do I have a motion for items G1 and 2?
So moved.
Mr. Curtis, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Davis, any discussion? Mr. Aho, roll call, please.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. Items G1 and 2 pass 5-0. Without objection from my colleagues, I'll read items H1 through 3. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the certificated licensed personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. H2, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the classified personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. Item H3, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the supplemental contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified, pending satisfactory ORC background checks. I have a motion for items H1 through 3.
So moved.
Mr. Felber, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Curtis? Any discussions on items H1 through 3? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio? Yes. Mr. Solera?
Yes. Items H1 through 3 pass 5-0. Without objection, I will read items I1 through 9. I1, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts a donation from the Cleveland Clinic, Office of Government and Community Relations, 25875 Science Park Drive, AC 121, Beechwood, Ohio, 44122, totaling $50. Dan Lundy, Twinsburg High School teacher, received the $50 gift card in recognition of student work submitted for the Cleveland Clinic E-Expressions program. The award will be used to purchase classroom supplies as per the attached exhibit. Item I2, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts a donation from George G. Dodge, PTA, care of Melanie Harwood, 10225 Ravenna Road, Twinsburg, Ohio, 44087, for an amount not to exceed $1,000 to provide transportation for fourth grade students to the Cleveland Museum of Natural History as per the attached exhibit. I-3, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the following revised job descriptions as per the attached exhibit: school counselor, elementary; home instruction tutor; school psychologist; speech language pathologist; teacher. Item I-4, approval of College Credit Plus agreement with Cuyahoga Community College. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the College Credit Plus agreement between the Cuyahoga Community College and the Twinsburg City School District for the 2018-2019 school year per the attached exhibit. I-5, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves a contract with Education Alternatives for one student from February 27, 2018 through June 1, 2018 in the amount of $7,750 as sent to the board under separate cover. This is a general fund expense. Item I-6, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves an agreement with Ohio University's College of Health Sciences and Professions to place university students in our district for the purpose of clinical exposure and practice, as sent to the board under separate cover. I-7, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves an agreement with Ashland University to place university students in our district for the purpose of field-based experiences related to teaching in the schools, as sent to the board under separate cover. I-8, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves a proposal for an overnight extended trip for the 8th grade students at R.B. Chamberlain Middle School to travel to Washington, D.C., leaving on May 8, 2018, and returning on May 10, 2018. The cost of this trip is being paid in full by the students, as sent to the board under separate cover. Item I-9, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the ice rink facility use agreement with the City of Garfield Heights, Ohio, a municipal corporation, care of Dan Costel Recreation Center, 5411 Turney Road in Garfield Heights, Ohio, for the use of the ice rink and facility for the Twinsburg High School hockey team from September 1, 2018 through March 1, 2019, as sent to the board under separate cover. Do I have a motion to accept items I-1 through 9?
So moved.
Ms. Davis, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Felber, second. Discussion real quick. I'd like to thank the Cleveland Clinic for their donation for that Expressions program. Mrs. Powers, that was the program that you had mentioned we had a student participate in recently. So thank you for that. That is always good to get additional dollars to help continue those experiences for the students, as well as to thank the PTA for their financial support for the field trip for our fourth grade students. It's just one of the many things that the PTA does for the students in our district, so we thank them for their support as well. Any other discussion on items I-1 through 9? Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mr. Solera?
Yes. Items I-1 through 9 passes 5-0. Item I-10, whereas school violence has become an epidemic in the United States of America, and whereas the children and school employees of our nation deserve to attend school without fear of death or injury, and their families deserve to send them to the school without the same fear. And whereas there is a mutual responsibility of all citizens to address this problem, and the responsibility for preventing violent incidents cannot be relegated to school districts alone. Whereas multiple studies have shown that the majority of Americans support actions to eliminate violence in our schools, and whereas school board members, administrators, employees, and community members should work together with lawmakers, legal counsel, law enforcement, and security experts to determine how best to ensure student safety in their district. Therefore, be it resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education implores the President of the United States, the Governor of the State of Ohio, the United States Congress, and the Ohio General Assembly to prioritize the protection of students and school employees by enacting legislation with funding for the following. 1. Enhance mental health services and substance abuse treatment so that all individuals, including children, have sufficient access to those services. 2. Increased access to school safety measures, including but not limited to school resource officers, school safety infrastructure, and other security measures designed to protect students and staff from an active shooter on school grounds. 3, training for school employees and enhanced coordination with law enforcement agencies and first responders to ensure appropriate responses to incidents of violence in schools. And 4, preserving the balance between the right to own firearms and the protection of students and school employees from any act of violence. Be it further resolved that the treasurer be directed to spread this resolution upon the minutes of the Board of Education, and that copies of the resolution be forwarded to the President of the United States, the Governor of the State of Ohio, the United States Congress, and the Ohio General Assembly. Do I have a motion for item I-10?
So moved.
Mr. Felber? Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Curtis? Any discussion?
I think while we're never done with school safety, I commend this younger generation for stepping up and maybe teaching the adults it's time, to actually continue treating the situation like we treat any other disease, with research, with advocacy, and it shouldn't be belittling just because of their age. What these students have done and the ability to keep this message in the news recently. Normally a CNN event lasts about 2 days and it's over with and everybody goes about their lives. There are no right answers, but I think lending more and more voices to this is important. We all have both our professional and personal opinions on what needs to be done. I don't think there's one particular topic, in my personal opinion, not the board, my opinion, there's not one particular topic that you got to just do this. It's the combination of the advocacy and keeping this in the forefront. So while yes, this is a resolution, we need to lend our voices in asking both our staff, our parents, our students to continue to lend their voices to this issue.
And I'll also make some comments for one, I was happy to support the resolution when the superintendent brought it before us and asked for support. Definitely willing to do so. I want to really speak to how pleased I was with the forum that we hosted and the extent to which we have partners in every community that we serve. Their safety forces are very well involved and integrated into our safety plan that we're required to submit to the state. Communication is seamless. There's hypervigilance around any and everything that we need to be aware of, and I thought that they did a phenomenal job of articulating that and explaining, I guess, dispelling some things that are floating around out there, in terms of what might be the most effective means of stopping anything. I thought they did a really good job of addressing some of those things, and also just assuring the community that Twinsburg has a very comprehensive approach to dealing with student safety. And also one of the things that they impressed upon everyone who was in attendance is that it's fluid, which means that it's flexible and we adapt to the environment. We adapt to changes as they occur. So we're vigilant, and the extent to which we can get assistance at the state level or the federal level is extremely helpful. But as we know, whenever the legislature passes something, oftentimes funds do not come with it, and we're hopeful that any and every ounce of assistance that we might be provided might have some funds that come along with it that allow us to kind of do the things to make sure that our community is safe, and more importantly, to make sure that our children are safe.
And Mark and Rob spoke in depth about the just about school safety and the forum that we attended. And as a parent of 3 kids in the schools, I was very appreciative of our safety forces and for everybody who put that together. And although I've heard some of it before, there's things I had missed in other times, or a few things that were new to me as well. And it was just a great program, and I encourage any parents who weren't able to make it to next time we have something like that, or a community forum on safety, or we've had great ones on internet safety. These are just really good forums to attend because you get to have your questions answered. They'll stay after and speak with you, and And they did. They hung around for quite a while and talked to some of the parents. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just appreciative that we have some of these forums in our schools as a parent as well.
Ms. Rejo, please call the roll.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio? Mr. Solera?
Yes. Item I-10 passes 5-0. Moving on to miscellaneous.
So, Mr. Solera, you gave a nice synopsis of House Bill 512, as well as I know the superintendent has spoken about 512 as well, and also, obviously I've been all over 512 as well. So, the last conversation and communication I had with Representative Rogner was as a result of me getting word that there was a substitute bill that has been introduced in the committee where it currently resides. So I asked that she inquire as to whether or not there was a substitute bill, and if there was a substitute bill, what's entailed in the bill. Clearly, I think that if there is a substitute bill, then it speaks to possibly some folks, the drafters of this legislation, that they're responding to a lot of the upheaval and a lot of the opposition to the bill. So when she got back to me, she did confirm that there is a substitute bill that was introduced today. When I talked to her, it was a couple of days ago. So when we checked with Chairman Blessing, of that committee, he had not seen the bill, so we couldn't find out exactly what amendments or what changes were made. So I find that interesting that he's the chairman of the committee, and yes, the bill was on the schedule to be discussed, and yet he couldn't tell us what the changes were in the bill. So as it was introduced today, I will follow up with Representative Rogner and possibly Chairman Blessing to get a copy of what was introduced in the committee today, so that we can have a better grasp of what kind of changes have happened. But I just find it very intriguing that all this secrecy around the bill and what changes are made and who's involved. I mean, it doesn't sit well with me, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that I made those contacts and where we are in the process of this bill.
Mr. Curtis, what I heard today is there's some effort to remove the Ohio Department of Education's part to 512. So we'll see if that's actually going to happen. That was the latest from Columbus earlier this afternoon.
Okay.
We'll see.
You have more information than I do, so.
Anyone else from miscellaneous? Ms. Powers?
Just one announcement. Mrs. Davis just mentioned her advocacy and her support of our community conversations. There is a new one. Mrs. Trapphagen has been busy behind the scenes with our partners from Beachbrook on Thursday, April 12th at 7 p.m. will be a community conversation on adolescent mental health. This is an offshoot of some concerns that we are hearing across the state and nationally about stress that is causing young folks to make some serious life decisions. Suicide is a topic that you hear about. And last Wednesday when we talked about school safety, we brought up the importance of addressing mental health issues. You heard it this evening in the resolution that you just authorized. And so we as a school district are concerned about that topic, and so we are inviting our parents and residents to Twinsburg High School. Again, it's Thursday, April 12th at 7 p.m., community conversation on adolescent mental health.
Thank you. Any other comment, Mr. Phil? Real quickly, wanted to kind of touch base again. Thanks again for the community conversation on school safety. I thought that was very well done. I appreciate everybody involved in it. And just touching base, starting in April again, that will air on Cable 9 on Tuesdays at 8 p.m., Fridays at 10:30, and Saturdays at 1 p.m. That's Friday at 10:30 p.m. And I thought it highlighted the proactive measures that the district has taken over the past 5 years in terms of addressing safety, both with personnel, with our physical buildings and facilities, as well as our action plan. And I wanted to share an interesting conversation that I had Friday morning with Mr. Felber. He and I were in attendance at one of our buildings that was up for a potential state award. In doing that, they had brought in some evaluators from another district, some previous winners and things like that. And upon meeting one of the ladies that was there, the first comment that she made to myself, not even really knowing that Mr. Felber and I were both board members, was how impressed she was with how hard it was to get into the school. With our lobby guard system, with our welcome center, and the processes that she had to go through, so much so that in her district they are converting I believe it was a middle school over to an elementary school, and she asked, and I heard from Mrs. Powers that she stuck around later and took a significant amount of pictures and ideas to bring back to her district. So, we hear a lot about, districts and people being reactive anytime an incident happens, and I thought that this was a good example of something that we've had in place for 3-4 years now.
Actually 5 now.
Yeah. Before many other districts, and in talking afterwards with Chief Noga and Assistant Chief Gancheski, who traveled to multiple other districts, we are one of the few around here that have that level of security in our buildings, and one of the few that actually utilize it properly, and require every single person to, show identification and turn in, to the point that I've actually had to go back to my house and get my driver's license a few times because I haven't been let in. But that's a good thing, So I just want to make that clear, that we hear, the district, everything we do is, planned and thought of, and it's not always a knee-jerk reaction. So, and we welcome the additional ideas, and I thought some very valid points were brought up last Wednesday. I'm looking forward to the, as part of the strategic plan, the committee forming to discuss, moving forward, school safety and security measures. And I was very glad to hear Mrs. Powers in one of your meetings this week with our staff that you guys were discussing some new ideas as well. So thank you very much for that. Moving forward, we do have a need for 2 executive sessions tonight. First, so I will make a motion that the board enters into executive session at 8:27 to discuss employment and compensation of public employees and the discipline of a student as per Board of Education Policy 0166A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Curtis, second. Mr. Aho, please call the roll.
Mr. Solera?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Fabio?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
The board is now in executive session. When we reconvene, I don't anticipate any action being taken.